So welcome to Garden Theory. For today's video, it's going to be a little bit more simple and bare bones. I just kind of want to review with all of y'all about Xeriscape. Didn't quite have as much time this week to prepare this video, so I thought we could go through this organization's page on Xeriscaping and talk about the benefits of it, and probably show y'all a few examples as well. But let's just talk about what is xeriscaping. So xeriscaping, it's more than just putting rocks in your yard, which some people think just doing rock beds. It's a little bit more different than that. Xeriscaping is choosing plants that can thrive in your local area, typically native plants, plants that aren't going to be needing as much irrigation once established. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but here's some of the benefits of xeriscaping your home. It can increase your home value if you do an attractive mix of xeriscaping. It reduces your water use. It can save time by requiring less mowing and maintenance. Saves money because you won't be spending as much on water and chemicals and fertilizer. Here it says eliminate chemicals, eliminates use of pesticide and herbicide use, although that can depend on your preferences. And then, of course, promotes a healthy environment and better ecosystem. Let's talk a little bit about how to do xeriscaping, kind of break it down for everyone. So, first stage, like with anything, like we talked about in our landscape video, we want to be able to first do some planning and design before we break ground. A good thing, just like they show in this picture off to the side, is we want to create that base map. If you want to learn how to create a base map, we just did a video a few weeks ago about it. I'll have it linked above my head. But we want to create a base map of our home and start putting down things just like they have down here. What features you would like to have, like a patio, shade tree, butterfly garden, vegetables. Where do you need pathways? Where's the full sun? Where's the shade? So having that scale drawing in the beginning is going to help you overall when you're designing your landscape. Now, next is soil preparation. I imagine this mainly depends on your own site. You can get a soil test for free, usually at your county offices. They usually give you one, at least I know they do in our county here in Arkansas. But depending on your soil, if you're living in a neighborhood or a development, it may not be the original virgin soil. And depending on the quality, you may want to add. Typically, you can't go too wrong with adding organic matter and compost, but you want to just double check everything. Doing a soils test is a good place to start. See if your soil needs anything. But yeah, checking your soil is going to help you know uh, a lot bit, help you know more about what your starting point is. And then practical turf areas. So I know in xeriscaping, I think the National Association recommends no more than 30% of your landscape to be lawn. And some people don't want any lawn, and some people want a lot. It kind of depends on your needs. But typically, you don't want to do more than 30% if you're following the xeriscaping guidelines. But yeah, so we want to be more practical with it. In most neighborhoods, at least here, it's lawn to the fence to the house. Almost your entire site is lawn. We're going to want to try to reduce that with xeriscaping because lawn requires a lot of water and resources to maintain. It's one of the most highly, has the most high like maintenance of any plant. So we're going to try to reduce that. And then efficient irrigation. So having correct irrigation zones is important. We don't want the lawn to be on the same irrigation zone as our native plants because both of those have different watering needs. So that's part of the design. Once we have things all separated into sections, it makes it a lot easier then to go in with your irrigation design, figure out where each section needs irrigation. And depending on where you live, you may not need a whole lot. You may just need some for the lawn. But ideally, especially if you live in a drier area, it's good to have drip irrigation installed. And there's several different types of drip irrigation. We could probably do a whole video on irrigation, but usually drip irrigation is your most effective. And maybe we'll do a video talking about that in the future. Yeah, and they also recommend here, I'm glad they do this, you don't want to water every day with these plants. The typical advice most people give you is you want to water deep and infrequently and let it have multiple soak cycles. And if that sounds like unfamiliar territory to you, be sure to be subscribed we'll try to do maybe next week a whole video on irrigation to help break that down. But generally, you want to be more sparing with your water. And so now we're going to go on to plant selection. So keep in mind, we are still in the design phase, all of these steps. All of these steps are for your design. We haven't even broken ground yet. So appropriate plant selection. And this is going to be probably the hardest and biggest one to do. And so we want to try to find water-wise plants suited to our conditions. And so this site has a plant database. But for our plants, we want to find native plants that works well. You can ask your local gardening groups about what native plants they've found to work well without much care. You want to choose drought-tolerant plants. I know some for our area, like coneflower, maybe little blue stem, and black-eyed Susans are all good drought-tolerant plants. But a good website, you can look up this information. If you're just trying to find information about things, is gardenia.net. And they do a lot of good stuff. They have a whole plant finder page so we can start looking for stuff. But let's say we want like dwarf hummingbird mint, which is a cultivar of a native plant out west. And so now we have all this information about it and we can learn a bit more about it. And then the final step, mulching. I would definitely recommend mulching as your main material for your install. It helps to keep weeds at bay to have a good, decent mulch layer. So it's going to help you with weeds as well as retaining that moisture in the soil. And that's why I don't recommend doing rocks instead of mulch, because the rocks will only heat up your soil and kill any microbiology that's happening in the soils and heat up those plants even more than they already are in summer. So, and also, it also heats up the air around your home, increasing your energy consumption. So I generally would push away, from those small rocks, like when they do those rock mulch beds instead. It's okay to do like larger rocks, as you see in this picture. Decorative larger rocks are fine. We just don't want to make the entire thing rock, if that makes sense. Yeah, and they even put that right here. Rock mulch intensifies the heats and plants around your home. It makes it difficult to weed and clean up plant debris. So overall, the rock mulch is just not very good. And it's also kind of a pain to install 'cause you have to wheelbarrow those heavy rock loads in. I've done a few installs of those before, and overall, they're just not that beneficial. And then last step, maintenance. And so once everything's installed, learning how to maintain your garden is very important. And that's something you want to consider with every one of these steps, is consider the long-term maintenance of everything, how much time and cost it's going to take you. But the main thing, of course, weeding, depending on how much weeds, I mean, every site's going to be a little different, but weeding's going to be a big one. Uh, Understanding how to do your water, and we'll make sure to do an irrigation video next week, a little bit more in depth, and then mowing. And again, if we've reduced our lawn to only 30% of your landscape, that means you're going to use less water, it will take less time to mow, but you'll still have a decent lawn space to work with. All these things go together into creating a xeriscape garden, and I don't know personally of any xeriscape gardens in my local area for me to go tour and look up, but well, I may know some, but we'll do a garden tour maybe of some xeriscape gardens in the future. But with that, I think that's going to be our video for today. Thank y'all for watching. I know this was kind of a shorter and not as glamorous video as I usually do, so I hope y'all still liked it. If you'd like me to do more of these kind of sit down videos, just let me know in the comments, and I hope y'all all have a great weekend.